on my computer, and we will get this set up. Okay. And I think.
Yes, we are.
Wonderful. Wow. This is a reboot from last week due to technical difficulties, but we are so excited to have everybody here for Wine and Tea Wednesdays on a Tuesday. So shaking it up a little bit. Really, really happy to be here again with the wonderful Shelley Chopra. And as many of you know, she is a GW4W member and board member. She is also on the board of International School of Story and a principal at Lumina Health Partners. And our special guest today is Dr. Dale Atkins, author and psychologist. She focuses on family relationships, aging well, and maintaining balance in life. She's a regular guest on NBC's Today Show and spoke last week about cabin fever on SiriusXM Today Radio, which was wonderful. And her most recent book, which I'm going to hold up because I have indeed read it, is The Kindness Advantage. And I'm sure we can all agree we need a little bit more kindness in the world right now. So, so pleased to have you here, Dale, with us. And thank you so much for being a GW4W member and sharing your voice.
Thank you, Mim. Thank you, Shelley. It's so nice to be with you. And I'm delighted to be a part of your wonderful community and look forward to sharing with you.
Well, great. So hopefully everybody has their mug of whatever they'd like to sip on today. I have a nice lemon and lavender tea.
Nice.
And I'm doing a almond milk latte.
Ooh,
okay.
Very nice.
Lovely.
Good. Well, good. So we'll jump in, and I think you know, this idea of feeling distance from people and why kindness is so important right now is something that we really all need to think about. But you are the expert, Dale. So as a psychologist and researcher, I think people are often wonder, those that have the real expertise in this, how do you incorporate this into your life, and how does it impact you on a personal level?
I try to what I call take my pulse every morning and see what I need at this moment in time, because what I need at this moment in time changes from moment to moment. So generally, what I find I always need is time in nature. And I know for so many people going through this period, they don't have access to nature. They don't have access to getting out of their apartments, for instance. And what I think is important is, as we're doing, we would love to be together and be able to hug each other and really connect with each other. But we're doing the next best thing. And that is being able to see one another and hear each other's voices, even though it freezes, even though there's all kinds of problems, but it's the next best thing. And I think if people can get into nature in whatever way they can, nurture a plant in their apartment, look at beautiful pictures of nature, of seasons, of places they've been that have been wonderful to them. I do that, but I also am very fortunate in that I have nature right outside my door that I can access. So that's number one for me. Number two, but these aren't really in order, they're just the way they're coming into my mind. I do meditate every day, and I find that it grounds me, it helps me to focus. And I do breathing exercises throughout the day. And most people don't even know I'm doing them because we all breathe. And I just kind of try to focus my breath throughout the day so that I can kind of take stock of where I am and how is my body doing? How am I feeling at this moment in time? I notice changes when I watch the news, which I don't watch so much anymore. I notice changes when I'm talking to people who are particularly anxious, when I find that there are some messages that I might want to share with others, but there might be resistance. So I kind of keep my own, I keep a monitor of myself. The other thing is I'm very blessed to have a wonderful dog. And I think anybody who loves animals and has access to animals, it can be very soothing and very healing. I also remember the people who are very important in my life. And I do this intentionally and actively. Mim, as you know, I lost my mother at the end of December. And I think of her every day. I call her in to be with me every day. I look at her photograph. I look at photographs of my dad. And for me, particularly at this time, this gives me incredible strength. They were people who really believed in me. They are people who had confidence in me. And they are people who loved me. And while I am unable to really connect every single minute and every day, I feel that I can connect with them, and I feel their warmth and I feel their embrace. And it's very important to me. Additionally, I try every day, no matter how much work I'm doing, to connect with at least 2 or 3 of my friends, also intentionally, to see how they're doing. And sometimes I do more, but at least 2 or 3 by phone or on FaceTime, because I'm finding that I don't get a lot of gratification from texting. I want to hear their voice, and I also want to tell them what it is about them that affects me and that helps me and that I love about them and that I appreciate about them, because that for me is a true connection. And I'm finding that when we are not as connected as we normally are, and so many people are alone, it's really important that we give one another that gratitude for each other, that appreciation, what I remember about you, what I learned from you, a trip we took together, and make it very present and very real. And this fills me. I mean, these are acts of kindness that I do for myself. And then in doing them, I start to feel better. It's not that I pretend that all that's going on is not going on. Not at all. It just gives me more strength, and it makes me feel a bit more resilient to kind of remember what I can control, what I can't control, how I have to adapt, who I can connect with. And it makes it a little easier every day. But every day is not easy. I don't want to give that impression. Some days are not very easy at all, and some days are very hard, and some days I'm filled with sadness. And I'm overwhelmed by what's going on. But I must keep my finger on my pulse. And those days, maybe I take a bit more of a rest. Maybe I say no to a few invitations to work or to do something. Or I just say for myself, time out, I'm going to take a walk. And that's really important. I have to fill my own reservoir, because otherwise it doesn't get full. And we're being asked to do a lot more now than we normally are. And it takes a larger effort to do simple tasks. And unless we recognize that many of us are running on empty, we have to keep filling ourselves so that we have what it takes to give to ourselves, to give to the people depending on us, and to just keep a hopeful attitude and to try and be optimistic.
I love it, Dale. I think the practice you mentioned of not just reaching out, because you hear about that a lot, but reach out with an intention to, express, this is what you do for me. This is what you've done for me, or bring up a fond memory. What a way not only to fill your cup, but maybe pour a little into somebody else's cup too. I love that practice, and I think I'm going to have to maybe adopt that. I want to read short, sentences from your book that really resonated with me. You mentioned this. An interesting aspect of this hormone you're talking about, the oxytocin, is that when it's released during stressful and painful time in someone's life, it may lead people to seek out more and better social contacts. Yes. And I read that, and what emerged for me was there are a lot of people who are more severely impacted by
Yes,
this whole pandemic. Health, safety, security, financial security, livelihood. People have maybe even lost their loved ones
yes.
in that.
Oh, yes,
And as I was reading about the work you've done, Dale, you've done a lot of work with people who've gone through trauma or PTSD.
yes.
How can the practice of kindness help us navigate the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves that we might have either come to or going through a trauma or an adverse event in times such as these?
Thank you for asking the question. It's a very important question now in particular. So
Mhm.
much of the work that's been done in resilience relates to helping people through trauma. Now, we are in the middle of this trauma. For some of us, this will not be as traumatizing as for others. And really, it's the way we interpret what's going on, which will help determine whether or not we are traumatized by it. I think that much of the work in PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, is after the trauma, when we can then begin the healing, right? And we have reflection and we have distance. But now we don't have that. But what we learn is what happens with post-traumatic growth and post-traumatic transformation. How is this, even when we're in the middle of it, how are we transforming ourselves, or how are we being transformed by what's happening? You raised probably the most difficult, and it has to do with loss. And I know that we will be talking about loss again, and that will be the focus of one of our conversations. But to just dip my toe with you, I would say that connection with oneself is probably the most important aspect of being able to get through these losses, these multiple losses. And they show up in many different ways. People who are not able to be with their loved ones when they are so ill, people who are not able to comfort their loved ones, either the person who's sick or the people who are mourning, that you cannot finish, you can't do rituals. All of this is very, very heavy and hurts us, literally hurts us and hurts our hearts. And I think what we must do is connect with ourselves and really not be afraid to go to a deep place and allow ourselves to be there. But we don't just go there and stay there.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is we go to a place that is challenging and difficult. We go there through our breath. We allow ourselves to think of what it is that is so sad or so harmful or so frightening. Many people are scared now, really scared. They're scared about their futures. They're scared about their finances. They're scared about their jobs. They're scared about their health. And they're scared about their loved ones. And so I think they're scared about their safety. So we go to that place and have it be okay. Really, it's okay because number one, we're not alone. There are so many people who are feeling similarly. And that kind of normalizes it. When you allow yourself to say, yes, you really are scared. You allow yourself to have that be your reality and don't run away from it. And you'll notice that I just reflexively, I put my hands here, right? And I put my hands here because this is the area of my heart. This is the area of where I breathe. I sometimes will put a hand on my belly. And I want to do that because I want to be able to say, yes, this is really hard. And you're going through a hard time. And then I want to assure myself that I'm not alone. There are lots of people who are feeling similarly. I am not alone. I may feel alone, but I'm not alone. And then I really keep my hand on my heart and I say, you're going to be okay. You will get through this. You may not know how right now, but you will. And I'm here for you. You're okay, darling, is what you say to yourself. Just as you would with a child who comes to you, who's really scared, and you want to hold them. You say, sweetie, you're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And then you can then say, what do I need right now at this moment that will help me deal with this fear, that will help me get through. And this is all connecting with yourself through compassion. And it really is self-compassion. So when we do that, we give ourselves permission to have any feeling at all, because it's just a feeling. And then we know that we're going to use ways to move through the feeling. We're going to hit it again. It will come back, but it doesn't have to paralyze us. So one of the things that I do and I ask people to do is, when was I scared before? What did I do? How did I get through this at that time? Is what I'm thinking now going to help me, or is what I'm thinking now not going to be very helpful?
Yeah.
So is this thought good for me? Is this behavior healthy for me? Maybe it worked 10 years ago, but it's not really right now. It's not working. So is my mind fixed, or is my mind flexible? Will I be able to adapt to what I need now? Can I pivot? Can I change my behavior? Only if we'll let ourselves change the way we think. So one of the other things I think that's helpful in connecting in the scenario that you spoke about with kindness is, who do I know in my life who were role models, or who have I read about? Other people who went through really challenging times. I mean, I will share with you, I think Mim, I might have shared this with you. I read stories about people who have survived the worst possible experiences in life. People who've gone through genocide, through the Holocaust, through all kinds of things. And I read them to try to tease out how they got through. What did they rely on? For some people, it was memories of childhood. For some people, that's the last thing they could, that would give them solace and feeling safety. For some, it was hope. But with almost every single person, it was that someone connected with them, believed in them, thought they were valuable, and that the person had someone else to live for, not only themselves, but that they connected with someone else, that someone else was depending on them. And that is, again, this connection. When we don't feel alone, and when we feel connected through our heart, we have enormous power, and we can have hope, because that other person, when we don't feel optimistic, can remind us that we do have what it takes to get through whatever it is. And the other thing is, when we look back and say, gosh, I can't believe I got through that. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You did. And let's give yourself a pat on the back, and let's take a breath before you look at the next thing that you have to get through. Relax, look around and say, oh my God, I did that. Wow, how did I do that? And then you tell yourself again, how did I do that? So we have to keep doing this, because there is so much around us that is beyond what we can control. Mm-hmm. And it can be so overwhelming that we need to be able to say, okay, I can control this, and that'll make me feel a little better. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up the power of connection, the kindness we can offer others, the kindness or the strength and the connection we can take from others. But I also love you emphasized on the power of connection we have with ourselves. And we need to start there, because often the times when we think about kindness, giving, it's very outward. We assume it's outward. And sometimes we overspend ourselves by just focusing outwards, not realizing that we are not starting where it needs to begin, which is self. I'm not talking about self-absorption, but it is equally important to be kind and compassionate to yourself as you give to others. So I love that you emphasize on that point too.
Well, and I think it so deeply ties back to what we talk about in terms of leadership, and leadership at all levels. What does self-leadership mean? And this understanding that you need to connect your head, your heart, and your hands. And that's why I loved this physicalization of this, because when we talk about it in a business context, and I think it's really important to say, for leaders that are going back into these working environments and are going to have to lead others, it's going to be so important for leaders to really ground themselves.
Yes.
And find that place of kindness for themselves, and even the little things, like you said, places to breathe, a 3-minute walk, that you build it into your schedule, because it is going to be the next normal, and then the next normal, and then the next normal over the next probably year to 18 months. And so right now, I think is a wonderful time as people are starting to plan, and we're, here in the US, we're starting to open things up. Things are happening all over the globe, but understanding that we all have this different level of fear, and then how to take that pause and make this connection to this sense of empathy and kindness. But it does have to start with yourself as a leader. I will say that I'm very proud to be in the state of New York, and I know that our governor here is kind of now world, like everybody in the world seems to know who our governor is, Mr. Cuomo. And I think that he really exemplifies some of that as a leader that is decisive and clear and doesn't sugarcoat what's going on. But he also has a lot of compassion, and I have deeply appreciated this leader. At the end, almost every time he goes out to do his talk, he talks about the power of love.
Yes.
Love is a strength.
Yes.
And very real feelings about his own family, as we all know, his brother Chris and his daughters being with him. And so I think it's a real lesson for leaders as they're going. It's a great way to think about role modeling a little bit. What is that going to look like, for your team? And, clearly we need to have this stronger sense of resilience, but resilience means many things to many people. And I know that you and I have talked a little bit about this idea that usually it's in the context of bouncing back. But I love how you talk about resilience as being a way to move forward. And so I'd love to hear you share a little bit about that connection with kindness and resilience.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. I also want to follow up on what you were talking about, if I may, about the leadership. And I think one of the other things that comes through is respect and honesty and transparency and understanding that everybody makes mistakes, but we're all in this together and nobody's embarrassed. Nobody's embarrassed in public anyway, that we're all learning, and we have to be able to be human, and that when you are a leader who has a team and people are afraid to come to you if they're not 100% sure that what they've done is okay, that you're really stifling that connection and communication. And I think we need to welcome the humanity of each other, and we treat each other as human beings, and nobody's perfect, but we are in this together. I mean, everyone's talking about this crisis. We're in this together. I think that some of us are in it more together than others. And I think that one of the things that Governor Cuomo is trying to promote is, we're all human. We all have families. We're all worried. And I get it. So let's try and work with what we have together, being honest and being open and respectful. And I'm going to take care of myself. I want you to watch me, and then you take care of yourself. So as far as moving forward, it's what is that transformation that I spoke about before, Mim? How are we going to transform this fear and the sense of, I'm overwhelmed, to what are the things that I can do? How do I deal with my anxiety in ways that are going to be healthy for me? What do I need to learn? Learning is one of the most important aspects of resilience, because what we did before may or may not work. We have to learn why it didn't work, or why it's going to continue to work, or maybe it just needs a little tweaking. And this, by the way, I think has to be with every leader. It worked last week. How come it's not working this week? And if you are so fixed and say, this is the only way it can go, that probably isn't going to feed into your being adaptable to move through. Everything that happens to us becomes part of us if we allow it to. We have the opportunity to grow spiritually, physically. We can be healthier, mentally, emotionally. We can problem solve differently. All of this is available to us if we say, I'm in. And it's not easy to say I'm in, because you must be able to say, if I'm in, that means I'm out of what might have worked before. And I have to leave that behind. So how do I learn what I need to know now in order to make that part of my fabric, part of my weave, so that we don't look back on this and say, oh, I don't ever want to think about that again. Okay, but what is it that you learned? What is it that you learned from not wanting to look back on it again? What is it that you learned from the losses? What are the silver linings? What is it that we can bring with us as we go forward? And it's all of it. So the question is, and I referred to this before, will we be traumatized, or will we be able to look at this as a multifaceted experience that may have touched us so deeply that we wonder how we'll recover? Because that's really a good question. Mm-hmm. The issues that are going on in our country and the world right now, but I can only speak to our country, with the availability of mental health services, more to the point, the lack of availability of mental health services, is shocking. And we all need, talk about kindness, we all need to be able to pay attention to how we feel and what is surprising us and what is scaring us and how we get through it, and the people who are around us. If we can do one act of kindness to any person we see, to the person, if we're going to the market, to the person who's helping us, ask them how you're doing. It's so good to see you again, right? Yeah. Anyone, when you walk by someone and you make sure you're 6 feet apart, acknowledge them with your mask, with everything. There's a human being there. Yeah. Everybody is being isolated. We need to be able to still connect. And I think getting through this is really how we stay connected in a time of isolation, how we recognize our humanity, how we keep nurturing what we need and what those around us need when we have very little patience, when we are angry, when we're not supposed to be superhuman, but we do have to recognize our humanity and be compassionate. And I think that's what will get us through.
I think that's so profound, Dale. And I think that this, especially in if you're an A personality in the go piece, and being able to forgive yourself. I always kind of refer to it as being your own best friend.
Yes. But some of us don't know how to do that. And when we're not with our best friends, we need to be able to stand in for them and say, what would I say to myself? What would I say to my friend if my friend had been going through the same thing? What language, what body language, what tone would I use? I think that the self-critical brain is what we really need to work on, because, we may say, oh, I have all this time off. I have so much time. I have time to pause. How come I'm not doing this and that and this and that everybody else seems to be doing on social media? What's the matter with me? Hey, I got up today and I was able to do the laundry, and I actually changed out of my pajamas. And for some days, that actually needs to be enough. I think if it gets to be a little bit more than we're comfortable with, we have to kind of check ourselves. And I'm kind of making a joke, but I'm asking us to give ourselves room to be and to not have to keep doing, because this takes a lot out of us emotionally. If we find we're close to the edge, we need to get away from the edge, and we need to be able to listen to what we need. And it may be watching a series, it may be listening to some wonderful podcast, it may be going in nature, it may be talking to an old friend. For each of us, it's different.
Right.
But we have to ask ourselves and listen.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of talking about the old normal might not come back, and there's good to it. And we are now going to be in a new normal or next normal. And you've said such profound things. And what I love, one of the things you said was, maybe this is our opportunity to carry commitment to kindness and self-care and acknowledging our humanness as we move into this new normal. Let that be one thing we can carry forward. And if we do, it would be so impactful at many, many levels. So thank you for sharing these opinions.
And I think that's a perfect transition. These always go so quickly, and it's like we could probably continue this conversation for the next half hour, but that's a teaser for the next one. So I think that's this is just a great moment to raise a glass and say, let's toast to a healthier, more sustainable, and kinder future for all of us.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me to join you.
Really, really wonderful. And we just want to thank everybody that is with us today and invite you to join us tomorrow for another Wine and Tea Wednesday on a Wednesday. You can sign in at 7 a.m. if you like to get up early. And our London team will be having Colin Bolin on. He's amazing. And here at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have our board member, Jennifer Ingram, who'll be joining us to talk about women's health and kind of the diversity aspects around this, because we know that women of diversity, brown and Black women, have been impacted very differently, and just a wonderful voice around all of this. And of course, if you're not a GW4W member, we would invite you to join us. Connect with us on our website, connect with us on LinkedIn. And again, we know that many people are struggling and having a tough time. And if you do need support, if you're struggling to find somebody to talk to, please reach out to us. We have so many amazing people in our network that would be happy to help you and listen and get you to a good resource. So with that, we will say, please remember that great minds sit together.
Thank you, guys. Stay healthy.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. That was fantastic. And you're so right, ma'am. If we had another hour to go, we could have. Now I'm like, man, this 30 minutes is so short.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Gail, thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think I'm going to definitely go back and listen to it. And ma'am, in fact, when you close, because this is your Zoom, you'll get the recording. If you don't mind forwarding that to me.
Yeah, I will do that. It's also on Facebook. My understanding that is out on Facebook. So
okay, I can
Whitney, I think if
can you send it to me as well?
Yeah, I think so. I'll get Whitney. I'm going to ask you to help me do that, so I do the right thing here. To be honest,
Whitney, can I adopt you?
She's amazing. All I can say is Whitney is a
amazing person.
Yes, and we would be lost without her. So yeah, she's just incredible, and love her.
Thank you.
But thank you. So we'll make sure you get that, and then want to look at the schedule and do one specifically about morning. I want to see, and again, I just want to give Nancy the opportunity to.
Oh, you're still recording, ma'am.
What? I'm sorry?
You're still
recording. Maybe you want to stop the recording?
Oh.
The live stop, but the recording's still going.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we can always slice that, right?
Yeah, we can slice it. That's not a big deal.
Where's, oh,